Okay, yesterday we have seen basic type of trigger, that HTTP Azure function. Today we'll see a Cosmos DB trigger. This basic scenario here is this is our same project what we have been working. So if I open checkout process when user is submitting an order, am I sharing my screen? No, right?
No.
Okay, you should be able to see now. Okay, now you can see. So this is our post method which we have been trying out as an example here. In this, we were processing queues, and lately, like, this was the last thing we were doing. Okay, so this is good. I mean, I'm adding the data to my Cosmos DB right now. At the same time, I also want to add it to the table history, what we had, right? We commented this. So I still want to have this one. So if if I uncomment this, my post method will be doing two operations in one method. So we don't want to do like this. Now what I want to do, whenever a row is added onto the Cosmos DB, I want to have my Azure function, execute or triggers automatically and take the data and add that to storage account. This is my Azure DB. If the record is being added here, what I want is I want to use Azure function. What it does is it keeps track of this Azure, it keep track of this Cosmos DB, and whenever there is a change in this Cosmos DB, I want to write that to a table. Okay. This is our requirement now. For this, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create an Azure function of Cosmos DB trigger type. So whenever there is a change in the Cosmos DB on that particular container or on that particular table, we want to run this Azure function and it will add a record to our table. Okay. So we just want to offload this main function and move this functionality into a Cosmos DB function. Clear what is our requirement? Okay. So let's begin. I'll add a new project here. We want Cosmos DB trigger. Okay, we need, because this is a Cosmos DB trigger type of a Azure function, we have to provide few settings here. We want to provide the connection string setting name. Okay, I'll type it as Cosmos DB connection string. So this is a variable name which I would keep in app settings file. So we are not providing the connection string here. We are providing the connection string setting name here. And what is the database name? I think it's MTT computers. And collection name is. So basically what we are saying this, on this Azure account instance, on this database, on this table, whenever there is a change happen, whenever a user is adding a new row, execute this function. It's MTT computers, and under that it is orders. Okay, why do we have to associate a storage account when we create a function trigger? Because internally, your Azure, what it does is, like, if you go back to this, internally they keep logs of your execution time, and if there are any errors or anything, right, just to keep a log and track, and it will also use your storage account for your billing purposes. Go to the storage account. If I go to tables, we did not create these tables, right? Azure Web Jobs, logs, common, all these things. This is required for your Azure functions to keep track of what is happening behind the scene. If there are any errors, it will logs here, and it will also log your metrics. And this will also be used while generating your month-end build. So that is the reason we need storage emulator. If you give storage emulator, it is doing everything locally. We have seen initially, right? We have that local emulator. So hope I answered your question there. Okay. So where were we? We just created this. I want to rename this. I also want to change the name of function. By default, it is giving function name here. I change this to order. So same thing. We are saying this CosmosDB trigger database is MTT computers, and on this collection, the connection string here, I have to add this connection string. If we go here, you will have localhost.settings file. Okay, I'll just take that connection string from this API project. Because it needs the connection string to keep an eye on it. So whenever there is a change, it gets triggered automatically. At the same time, let me just update storage account settings also. This is my storage connection because I need to add a row into the table. Table is part of your storage, Azure storage. So we are taking connection string of storage also. This MTT storage 3. That's what we have, right? Yeah, MTT storage 3. I can take keys from here, but I'm just taking from the API project because I already had that in the project. So we have added storage connection here. We have added CosmosDB connection here. Okay? There are two different things you have to keep in mind. Why do we need storage connection string? To create a record into the table. And why do we need Cosmos connection string? To keep an eye on CosmosDB in this scenario. So this is our CosmosDB. This is our storage account. So if we go back to this, add orders. This is the database name and this is a connection string. And there is one more option here called lease. Okay, it's similar to your what I've just showed you. Into your storage account, Azure is creating this additional tables here to keep track of your executions and to keep track of your metrics and billing. Similarly, in Cosmos also, what Azure does is it creates an additional container called lease, and it keeps tracks of your execution and same thing metrics, and it will also be helpful while. So we don't have to worry about this. Like this was added by default. So when you run it for the first time, it will create it here. And if it's not there, you should be able to add an additional parameter like this. Create least connection if not exists equals to true. So if it is not there in your Azure Cosmos DB, it will create it here. So we don't have to worry about this. This is being used by your Azure internally, again for same logs, metrics, and for your billing purposes. Okay. So this is your body, and when Azure is going to execute this Cosmos DB trigger, it is going to pass input type as a document. So whatever the record which is being added to this Cosmos DB, in our scenario on this table or in this container, that will be passed here. The whole object, the whole JSON, for example, this was added recently, this whole JSON will be passed here. So now we can work with this input. There can be multiple rows. It's saying list. So there can be multiple rows being added at the same time. So if there are if there are 3 rows, you'll get that 3 rows. So what you will do is you will loop it here and read that data. Okay, we'll just run it as it is and test it. So any questions? We have not made any changes into the code. We have just given database name, table name, and connection string I've added. Please I've explained what is this. I just changed the names of it. So let me just run as it is for now. Azure Web Storage in local settings we have given, right? So what it's saying, it's required in all the triggers other than HTTP trigger. So why is, if there are 2 comments here, that's the reason. Okay, this is running right now. So I'll go back to I'll put a debug point here. So when this should get executed, whenever there's a new record here. So let me just copy this whole thing, an existing record. I change few things here. We call this 1617 and dummy user 8, and I'll change this to 8 something. Okay. So as soon as I add this record, this CosmosDB trigger should get executed here. This is getting, see, we added directly on the portal, but we are running from local, but we are still able to keep an eye on the live DB because we have given connection string as connect to the live CosmosDB there. Okay, let me come back here. So if we see the input, input is not null and count is greater than 0. If I just expand this input, we got the same JSON what we have sent from there. See this here. So we have seen, right? We are able to get whatever we are passing. We pass 1617 and the customer name add here. So right now we are not doing anything here. We just wanted to test the basic thing. So if we see logs here, you should see that it got executed. The document ID was whatever we sent from there, 1670. Okay. Now from here I want to add this record, that whatever I am getting in input, I want to add that into the Azure storage table. To add it to Azure storage table, we already have this code, right? I'll just copy this code. We'll save some time here. Copy. I'll go back to close this, close this. This is my order controller, which we were using in API. I just copied this code from there. I'm pasting it here. Okay, so before that we need to add few things. Remember, to work with tables we need to add a NuGet package manager here. Microsoft Azure Cosmos table here. So that should be added now. Yeah, it is added. Let me refer that here. One more thing we need to add is, I need to add a model folder here because whatever the data I'm going to get in input, I want to deserialize that into order history item. Like this is what we were using, right? In API, we were using a view model, order view model. The same thing, I'm just giving a different name here, order history item there. So I have that. I just want to add it here to save time. Okay, let me create a new folder, model. Let me add it here. Add a new or existing actor. Let me just take it from here. In helper class, I have this model. What is this model? It's similarly. Let me just change this to I. Description. Okay. I'll change it a little bit to match, just like what we are passing from here. In orders table, if we see, we are passing order view model. In order view model, we are passing all these things. I'll just copy this one. Amount, let me make double, because remember in Azure tables, we have to give double decimals, it will not take. Okay. I have ID. Name, I think we have customer name there. Price, we have total amount. Total. Partition key, I'm giving history. Row key, I'm giving this one. Okay, I'll explain you the code, what I just did. First thing, whatever the input I'm getting, meaning whatever the row we are adding from the Cosmos to the Cosmos DB, we are getting that into the input variable, and we are deserializing that input variable. We're deserializing that input data, whatever we are getting, into order history item. Order history item, I just created that model, a plain simple model. It's just ID, order date, customer name and amount. So basically whatever you are setting from here, ID, order date, customer name and amount, these values I want to read. So those values I just added it here. And after getting that into a variable called data, okay, I'm assigning the data here. I'm creating a new variable, order item history, and row key I'm generating, partition key I'm giving as history. This total amount, total name and all, I'm just passing it from the values which I received from here. After that, I'm getting the connection string. To get the connection string in your Azure functions, you have to use this syntax, system.environment get environment variable Azure web storage, because we want to connect to the storage account and create a row into the table. So we know what is Azure web storage. We have just seen Azure web storage is your storage account 3 there. Okay, on to that, we are going to connect to order history tables. Let's go here. So this is my CosmosDB. This is my storage account. On this storage account, we have this order history table. So let me go to Storage Explorer preview here. So let's see how many rows we have right now. There are 6 rows right now. I can actually let it be like that. I was just thinking to delete everything, but we can keep a track. We just have 6 items right now. So once we add a new record to CosmosDB, it should execute this figure, and this figure should add a new row to this table here. Okay, so everything is good. We are inserting the data, and once the data is inserted, let me just change this. Any questions in this? Any questions in the code, or any questions what I just did? Nothing complicated. I just created one model, and in this model we are just deserializing. I'm just converting that JSON into this model. Then I'm creating this data, and I'm passing this data into the insert command here, and that is getting executed. So we have already seen how to add row to the Cosmos. Same thing, I just change few parameters here, that's it. Change few properties here. So any questions in this before I execute this? Anybody? For a given function trigger, we can only have one API method. Yeah, that's what we said yesterday, right? This is world's smallest API. That is the reason why we want, right? We just want to, your function just do one work at a time. So you can create as many as APIs or as many as functions you want. We have seen the price also yesterday. It's not costly. So that is the prime design principle. Like your function should do one task and it should do good. Let me execute this. One more thing we have to do. Remember, to add anything to the table, we have to go to this table. Oh, it's already there. Like we just copied that, right? It should be inheriting from table entity, and this table entity is coming from Microsoft Cosmos table. So I just wanted to make sure we added this or not. Okay, so now this is running. The running instance ID is giving us. Let me go back here, and I'm going to the Cosmos DB. I'm copying this. I'm adding a new record here. Let me change this ID. This time we'll change to 1819, and dummy user. Let's keep a breakpoint here. Okay, I'll change the total amount also. So new record is added. Now anytime it should execute this stored procedure. Yeah, sometimes what it does is it takes a few seconds there, a few minutes there. Okay, I think it just executed. For some reason it did not. I think before I put this debug point, it just added the new record here. Now you see there are 7 records here. Okay, this is the new record you just added. dummy user 9, dummy user 9 amount is this, and the ID what we just passed was 18 and 19. So right now we are just running this from our local. I can just push this onto my Azure. We have seen this yesterday, right? We were able to push our HTTP trigger. Same way I'll push this Azure function also. I'm not going to do that right now, but eventually what you do is after testing everything is working fine, you would push this to your Azure cloud there. Okay, right now it is running into your storage emulator. Okay, any questions in this? Okay. This got executed and the row was added successfully to the storage table here. So we have seen CosmosDB trigger now. So that we are doing this one on CosmosDB. This is your CosmosDB and this is your Azure storage table and this is our Azure function. Okay. Anybody, any questions? Or shall we see one more type of trigger here? One more type of, let me add a new project here. Other types of triggers, right? Like this one we'll see maybe tomorrow. And blob, I want you people to try. For example, if some user is uploading an image, see what it is saying that this C# function will run whenever a blob is added to specified container. So you have to give the name here, the connection string name, and event grid and all will because you're not covered the event grid, it might not be easy to understand. So you people can try this later. Queues you can try, and timer I will show you now. So that covers mostly like almost all except send grid or service buses and all. But you get an idea, right? This is how you create your triggers. But if you look at a normal, if we look at a normal developer, like this is what I might be doing every day. Like I might be running a trigger on my database, based on my database, or I might be running trigger based on my storage record, or there might be some scenarios like where you want to run some kind of functionality as an auto scheduler, like maybe taking backup of your database or sending out pending payment notification every 15 days or every midnight, depending on your business requirement and depending on your business need. You might need to run, like this is another important type of trigger or timer trigger. So I'll just demonstrate this one. So whatever we are giving here is by default it is saying that this is an expression. I'll explain this expression. So I'll just select this, I'll create new. So this is the default value it is giving. We can change it here or we can change it after we create this also. So as I was saying, that expression is important for us. So there are 6 parameters here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and each parameter belongs to this one. First is second, then minutes, then hours, then day, month, and week of a day. I mean on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like that we can give. When it is star, it is on, if you see this example, like on every hour, every 5 minutes, on all the days. Okay, this is an example of so these are few examples of your CronTab expression. As a .NET developer, we don't have more experience into CronTab because this timer trigger what we have created or what Microsoft has created is based on the cron jobs of your Linux environment. So we don't have to worry about how do I learn to create this expression. There are few tools out there. I'll just share those URLs here. So there are tools out there on net which you can use to generate that expressions. Okay. For example, I want to run that every 5 minutes. If I click on generate, I'll get that expression. So I can just copy this one and use it in my code. So what I'm trying to show you here is don't worry about this cron expression. Even if you don't understand it, there are tools out there on net which will help you to regenerate based on your requirements. Every hour, like every 1 hour or every 4 hours, start at 10 a.m. This is your expression. So even usually Linux administrator, like this is an administrator's task to schedule a job. What that job does is you write that code. So even if you don't understand this expression, there are tools out there. You can just generate it like this. Because this con job is coming from a Linux environment, there are few expressions which might not work here because we are in Windows environment. So what you have to do is before using that, this is a second URL. You can just test that whatever the expression it is creating here. If I go back here, this was developed in .NET keeping .NET in mind. So if you just enter that expression and click on describe, so if you get a correct result here, that means everything is fine. We can use that one in our trigger here. Okay. So those two URLs are important. I'll just ping that here to generate your con expression and to evaluate a con expression whether that expression might work or not. There are some scenarios where some expression might not work in your .NET. So before using that, you have to test it here, and maybe you can make slight changes if needed, like this, like sort of star. If I give 3 here and just say describe, it says it's only running 003. If you just in the beginning it might look a little difficult, but if once you start playing with this, you will get more you will get more confident, and it's quite easy also. I'll just take this one, let's say describe. So it runs every 5 minutes. I just want to change this to run it every 5 seconds. So what I will do is I will just remove this from here and give */5. So now it runs every 5 seconds. So I'll use this expression. We test this in our code. My Azure constant trigger. Let me run this. So whatever you write here will get executed every 5 seconds. So we are just logging for now every 5 seconds. So this was executed on 8, 10, 15. We should have another in 5 seconds. I just decreased that interval to 5 seconds just to demonstrate here. But in real-time scenarios, like you would have something more meaningful there. Okay. So I'll just stop this now. This will bring us to the end of today's session. I just wanted to show you the CosmosDB trigger and timer trigger, because I think these are the 2-3 type of triggers which are which might be mainly useful for your real-time scenarios, like keeping tracking your DB, tracking your storage account, tracking your or something which you might need to run regularly. All right, then we'll take a leave for today. Thank you very much.